And good afternoon, Unati, and good afternoon to the viewers as well. As you know, things are moving, but it appears to be a hurry up and wait once again. By now, if one looks at the program, we would have been in a closed session where the organizational report by the Deputy President David Mabuza would have been tabled, but we still have not even begun with the business of the day. But of course, as SABC News, we have been bringing you a blow-by-blow account of what is happening here at Nasrec at the ANC's 55th National Conference. And with us, Onati, just to try and, make sense of what we have been seeing since this morning, we've got the Director of Research at ASRI and also one of our analysts here at the SABC, and Angelo Fick, who is joining us here in studio. Angelo, thank you so much for your time. When one looks at what has been happening this morning, I could not help but reflect on the words that we heard shortly after 2017. It's a matter of 5 years, comrades. And, those words were even saying, Maibuye ANC, that we know. We are looking at what is happening right now. It's a matter of 5 years. Things have changed.
Things have changed and things have not changed. And here one wants to not go all New Testament and think of the parable of the wise and the foolish and oil and lamps and people not being prepared. But it does feel a bit as if things have been left a little to the last minute, accreditation left to the last minute, court challenges open to the last minute, disciplinary processes to the very last minute, both inside and outside the ANC. And one wonders to what extent this is a symptom recital. This is psychiatric cabaret on the part of an organization that is performing these symptoms because there is underlying, one hates to think of it, but disease, organizational problems that demonstrate in these symptoms of not being able to start a conference on time. And even in his remarks to the media this morning, Pule Mabe, using the word collapse. Now, he may be saying that we don't want the conference to collapse, but that implies that there has been talk or thought, or at least consideration, of a potential collapse.
And when I heard those words, actually, they rang, true for some of those who probably have been saying that behind closed doors, they will do whatever it takes. And even some of them in the media saying that if they are not getting their way, this may just be a reality for the ANC. But when one looks at what appeared to be a chaotic registration process, and the ANC saying that no, everything is under control. At some point we are being told that 90% of the delegates were in fact registered. But when you look at this, and as you say, you mirror it with what we've seen happen with the ANC, you can almost get a sense that the credentials process is also, that adoption process will be just as contentious.
One imagines, because if there are people who are currently on suspension standing outside the conference and making remarks, the very notion of organizational discipline that the ANC has been struggling with, of disciplined cadre behavior, of a certain kind of party line to follow, and that the reputation of the organization should supersede the reputation of individuals. The survival of the organization should supersede the survival of individuals in that organization. That has been a mainstay of the ANC from its inception through to the years of Oliver Tambo. The difficulty is now, of course, they're a party of government. They're no longer a liberation movement standing outside power. And that means that they now have control over resources, which makes the fight for those seats at the top and at the table infinitely more crucial to people's survival. And so it doesn't surprise me that at this juncture, 28 years after taking power, the party is sitting in the situation of internal turmoil that has had consequences beyond the party inside the state. And far from just being a new dawn, there would have been a change in 2018, but the party's internal business has not been finished, cleaned up and made sure that ahead of this 2022 conference, all the ducks were as in a row as they could have been.
And Angelo, speaking about, listening to what people have to say, whether outside or inside, I was listening to some of the delegates that were in conversation with Griselda Lewis. A lot of them, when she speaks to them, talk about how they want to come in and vote for Cyril Ramaphosa to be ANC president once again. But these are delegates that come from communities that are grappling with the rising cost of living, with load shedding, with so much happening. What does that tell us about the caliber of delegate that is going into this conference? Do they understand the issues that South Africans are grappling with?
It may very well be that the people coming into this conference who are voting delegates and represent branches, many of them having experienced the consequences of decisions made in the union buildings, in Luthuli House, in various NWCs and NECs, feel the consequences of that like millions of other citizens who are not members of the ANC. And as a result, they have a far more immediate reason to want to address issues, and they may very well believe that Mr. Ramaphosa is the best solution possible. But of course the ANC is in a situation where, as always, it is bottom-up democracy and vanguardist leadership top-down. We saw this in the way in which they spoke about how leadership was going to take hold of the Section 89 report and then tell the NEC how to deal with this, and this will filter down. And that kind of top-down, bottom-up conflict of democratic process is a hallmark of the ANC, and the question is, in a moment of crisis, which of those two will best serve the party, and which of those two will best serve the party's survival not just to 2024 but all the way through the next generation, because the ANC, like all other parties in South Africa, need to call upon the young people, the majority of this country, to make up its ranks if it is to survive as an organization beyond 2030.
Angelo, you talk about the young people, but this is a party in and itself. I mean, when you look at the document through the eye of a needle, it's calling for 25% of young people to be in positions of leadership, yet this generational mix is still not a reality. So how do they then attract these young people into their ranks if they then come and don't know what to do with these young people in leadership positions?
So it's not just about attracting young people. As Susan Boyson said recently in Workers' Program, this is also about the caliber of the young people that you're trying to attract, given the challenges that are unfolding and lie ahead. I think too much of what the ANC is currently still in is about reparations for and rewarding people who were involved in the struggle against apartheid. That's why you see people in their 60s and 70s still in the party leadership positions. The unfortunate problem is that the majority of people alive in South Africa today were born after 1994. And so I repeat this issue, do not have a textured feel of living under apartheid. They may live with its consequences, but all they know is the consequence of living in a world made by one ANC administration after another. The fact that the ANC needs to call in young people is not just to bolster its numbers with the young, but it needs those young people because the challenges faced by this country and the world unfolding right now, from the climate catastrophe, energy insecurity, migration issues, and not of the kind popularized by people on the right of the spectrum of the threat of the foreigner. But 1 in 122 people alive today on earth is a displaced person, either internally or by migration. These challenges will face young people in their adulthood and middle age, when people my age are dead after 2040. And we cannot have a situation where we can only imagine the state until 2024. The South African state needs to be imagined into the 2050s, and the solutions peddled, the solutions proffered, implemented, must address the life that those people are going to live, or we will sit with a very, very difficult situation in the very near future.
So it sounds then to me like you're saying, like other analysts have been saying, that this is an ANC that has been inward looking versus an ANC that has been measuring everything against what is going on outside of it.
Absolutely, and it's not just inward looking, it's also looking over its shoulder. So in addition to its internal conflicts, it's looking over its shoulder at opposition parties. And the difficulty with political establishment in South Africa is that so much of it is out of step with developments unfolding. The climate crisis is not some future thing that's going to happen. It is happening. The water crisis is not something that's going to hit us in 2040, it is with us now. Water insecurity, poor water waste, infrastructure management. The energy crisis isn't coming. We are midway through it, and so the kinds of problems we're facing as a society must be addressed by policy initiatives engendered from people who are going to live with the consequences of them. My concern, and I say this as somebody who's grey-haired and old, is that I will not live into the society that is being built by the political establishment of the contemporary moment. And so it's not just about who gets voted into the NEC and what the top 6 officials of the governing party look like, who those personalities are. It's also about, are the policies proposed in July of 2022 that will or will not be adopted in December 2022 actually addressing the real and urgent need, because we don't have 10 more years. Our time is up, and these interventions need to start being implemented as soon as possible.
And Angelo, when we speak again, throughout the course of the show, we need to look at those policies. Do they actually even talk to what we are seeing happening around us? You're thinking for housing issues, for example, when issues around climate change are taking place. Now, Unathi, there's a lot to look at. And of course, as President Cyril Ramaphosa will also be giving his own account of where things stand right now. But there is quite a lot of issues that South Africans are grappling with today, waking up again to news that we are now in stage 6. And that, of course, means the economy for some is at a standstill. Businesses are already crumbling under the pressure of COVID-19. So how bad can things get before we see this crisis being addressed with the speedy action that it deserves? At the same time, we'll then look at the electoral decline of the ANC and see what the NEC has done, if at all, to try and resolve this. Unathi?
Bongiwe, thank you so much for your time. Of course, Bongiwe Zwane coming to us live there from Nasrec. We'll continue, of course, to go to our reporters and our news anchors in terms of just getting the very latest from this conference, which is something that every South African should, in fact, be watching.